Get out the rye bread and mustard, Grandma. We're one win away from the World Series. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Friday, October 17th, 2025. This is Titan Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. And as always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, we have a Patreon called Control the Zone, where we talk Mariners, Seahawks, all that good stuff. For more information, go to patreon.com/control the zone. Link in the description. The Mariners are the closest they've ever been to the World Series. Their 6-2 comeback win over the Blue Jays tonight gives them a 3-2 lead in the ALCS. Eugenio Suárez drives in 5 of the 6 Mariners runs on 2 massive swings of the bat, including his game-winning grand slam in the bottom of the 8th. We'll talk about that huge moment. We'll talk about Bryce Miller's start and the rest of the pitching. We saw Bryan appear in this one finally, and we'll also talk about how the Mariners are going to approach these final 2, hopefully 1, but 2 games as they look to secure their first ever trip to the World Series. They're going to have to do so in Toronto either on Sunday or Monday. But let's talk about this one, Colby. Let's just start here. Eugenio Suárez's grand slam, biggest hit in T-Mobile Park history.
It's up there. I mean, like the drought ender is certainly up there as well. Obviously, the double took place in the Kingdom, so really does feel like a 2-horse race. I can't possibly think of any. I guess Polo's walk-off single in the ALDS is probably up there as well. So
yeah.
But yeah, I think probably that one. And I guess technically Cal Raleigh's game tying home run is also probably in the top 5 or so. So yeah, a lot of really cool moments happening at T-Mobile Park. After just 2 dreadful efforts by this ball club at home in front of their fans. And, tonight they send them home with really good vibes, and, we'll see. They might have at least 2 more home games to, play in front of these guys and right some of the wrongs. But if not, this is a heck of a send-off, and it, of course, it comes from Eugenio Suárez, the king of good vibes, who has produced a lot of really bad vibes, particularly in this playoff run and in these playoffs. And tonight he came through in a big, big way. So yeah, I would say, I think it probably is either the grand slam or it's Cal's, drought ending home run. But I think it's fair to say that 3 of the 4 biggest hits have happened, in, this playoff run. And at least 2 of the 4 are from Cal Raleigh. So it's pretty cool to see all this good stuff happening right in front of us. This job's not finished. 1 win away.
Yep.
And it's going to be tough. There's no question about it, but I'm excited to watch it. And I really hope they get this thing done.
Yeah. So this offense looked pretty lifeless outside of Gino's solo home run against Kevin Gausman and this Blue Jays pitching staff. But, once you got Gausman out of the game and Louis Varland came in, and he's really the only guy that I truly worry about in this Blue Jays bullpen. And, you start doing the math and you go, well, Varland's not going to be able to pitch this whole game.
Mm-hmm.
So someone else is going to have to come out of that Blue Jays bullpen. And lo and behold, down to your final 6 outs, here comes Brendan Little, and Cal Raleigh immediately makes John Schneider pay for going to Little by depositing an absolute moonshot into Eggers Cantina.
Roof scraper.
The biggest of all of his big swings this year so far, and hopefully there's even bigger ones to come. But that knocks the game up at 2 apiece. Little walks the next 2 guys. He's out of the game. Sir Anthony Dominguez comes in. He hits Randy Arozarena, loads the bases, and in steps Eugenio Suárez. Nobody out, bases loaded, and I couldn't bear to watch because Gino obviously had the really nice swing for his solo home run earlier today, but we've seen him strike out so much since they've reacquired him. We've seen him struggle so much at T-Mobile Park specifically since they reacquired him. I just couldn't shake the feeling that I was going to see Gino strike out and then JP hit into a double play or something like that, and we were going to do the whole extra innings thing. So what I did was I turned off the TV broadcast and I turned on the radio broadcast with Rick and Aaron and Gary.
Coward.
And just kind of like kept my head down, listening in my earbuds. And then I hear the crack of the bat. I hear the crowd start to erupt, and I hear Rick deliver Dave's famous words. And it was like that moment in Moneyball where Brad Pitt, his head comes up. You know the one that I'm talking about.
Ty's comparing himself to Brad Pitt right now. That's what's happening.
In more ways than one.
Yeah,
We're both equally attractive.
Ty's Brad Pitt, sure, whatever.
That's right.
Are you comparing Gino Suárez to Chris Pratt then? Is that what we're doing?
Sure. Ooh. Gino's new nickname is Star-Lord.
There are worse nicknames to have. Yeah. But Gino again, obviously came up huge. I mean, you absolutely needed him, and that's why you make that trade 100 times out of 100, even when it was rough. Like, we're not going to sit here and tell you the Gino Suárez trade, was a huge win for the Mariners before tonight. Like, he really struggled when he returned here, and he had some moments, but nothing like this. But that's exactly why you bring that guy in, because he can do things like this, and there's just not a lot of guys out there who can do that. So it's just one of those things where, it's worth it. You have to sit through a lot of garbage. When you have Eugenio Suárez, he'll take a lot of bad at bats, and he's going to strike out a lot, and he's going to look terrible for weeks on end. But when you get it good, when you get good Gino, like, it can literally win you ball games. And tonight it won you the biggest game in franchise history, and until Sunday. So yeah, it really is. That's why you go out, you make the trade, and it is pretty fitting. The best hitter on the Mariners team this series has been Josh Naylor. Most consistent, it's Naylor. The guy who just won you the most important game in Mariners history is Eugenio Suárez. So again, I do think that, we should give some love and some credit to Jerry and Justin, and, for going out there and getting better at the deadline. Do we wish they would have done a little bit more? Sure, whatever. Not the time for that or for that discussion, but yeah, I mean, they went out, they got these two guys because they believed in this team, and they have both paid huge dividends. Josh kind of consistently throughout his time with the Mariners, and Gino, even if it is just this one instance of him, stepping up big for the Seattle Mariners, it doesn't get much bigger than that. So it really is, awesome. And obviously Gino means so much to the fan base. And we talked about this with Gary Hill way back in, I don't know, whenever, right before the Mariners struggled, because that's when we talked to Gary, that, there's only so many guys in Mariners history who have so quickly endeared themselves to this fan base. Gino's one of those guys for obvious reasons. He's an awesome dude. He was doing the presser today with his two children, fighting back tears as they were asking him questions about Seattle and all that. And, it really is awesome that Gino has carved out a significant role for himself in Mariners history. Whether he comes back or not, he will forever be remembered as an all-time great of this franchise, solely based on what he did tonight. And that's not counting the other amazing things he's done in his roughly 2.5 years with the Mariners. And it couldn't have happened to a more awesome dude. Like, Gino is awesome. He hasn't played awesome baseball recently, but tonight he sure did. And it happened right when the Mariners needed it. And, it's incredible. And that's why baseball's the best. That's why baseball's awesome, because of moments like that. So, baseball really is the best. Again, going back to Rick's call, Dave's famous words,
get out the rye bread and mustard, Grandma. It's grand salami time. Like hearing that, and Rick throwing out the first pitch today as well before the game, which we wanted so badly.
Yeah.
We talked about that a couple times when we got asked so many times about who do we want to see throw out first pitches. Rick was always one of the first guys that we named. And yeah, I mean, it's just impossible not to think about Dave today. Dave would have loved these guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so Bryce Miller started this game. He goes 4+. We'll talk about his afternoon. We'll talk about the rest of the guys in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by PrizePicks. This episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. And with football back, PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. It's quick, easy, and a great way to follow along with football. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. For instant reactions following every Mariners playoff game, be sure to tune in to the Mariners postcast with Anderson Hurst and Christopher Crawford, available on both the Locked On Mariners YouTube and podcast feeds. So Bryce Miller started this game. He goes 4+, gives up 1 earned run on 4 hits, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks. He threw the hardest pitch of his entire career early on in this game. So the velo was up. He was pretty amped. Then the velo started to decline the later on into this game we got. And I think that's ultimately the reason that Dan went to Matt Brash there in the 5th inning after he gave up after Bryce gave up the lead base runner. What was that? Barger? Yeah. So I know there was like some conversation about that decision. I'm fine with it. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I don't really think there was another decision to make. Bryce gave you 12 good outs, but he also had to pitch around a lot of, traffic, a lot of early traffic. And one of those, big outs he gave you was a screaming line drive that was hit right at Naylor, and he was able to double off, a leadoff double. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, Bryce gave you 12 outs and, he only gave up 1 earned run. 2? No, 1. 1 earned run.
1. Yeah.
But
it was Barger.
Right.
Yeah.
But it also is just like, look, you have to watch, right? You can't box score scout. You can't worry about tomorrow. You can't worry about what happened the last night. This is a game 5 of a 7-game series that's tied 2-2. It is a critical game. You can't mess around with it. You have to go when you start to worry about the guy. And I think Miller had surrendered at that point 5 hits to the last 8 guys. He just obviously got a big double play and obviously the weird fluky double play, whatever, to get out of a bases loaded jam, so it really is. I think that was the right call. It was clear Bryce was battling. He was, gutting it out. He didn't have as good of stuff as he did in game 1. Funny because he was pitching on full rest this time, but whatever. I think that was the right call. I don't have any problem with anything Dan did today. Possible exception of Gabe Spire in back-to-back games. But again, you had used Brash. Bizzardo has thrown a ton. So I guess maybe go Munoz and ask him to go 2 innings if you need him to. But I really don't have any problem with what Dan did today. I think he managed it pretty well. I think he got Bryce out at the appropriate time. Going to Brash there, I think makes a ton of sense. It didn't quite work out. Almost worked out, but not quite. But still Brash, able to limit the damage there. And then because of what happened over the last couple of days, you knew that they were going to use Bryan Woo tonight. And I thought Woo looked like a guy who was pitching for the first time in a month. Some good stuff, some bad stuff. So overall, I really don't have any problem with how Dan managed this ball game.
So this game almost followed the same script as the other 2.
Mm-hmm.
Eugenio Suárez hits an early home run.
Yep.
Mariners up early. And guess who's leading off the top of the third for the Blue Jays? Their 8-hole hitter. And it's a lead-off double. And it's like, oh,
Jimenez.
God. And here's Jimenez. It's like, oh, God, here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
And then, he ropes a liner to Josh Naylor, who doubles off Connor Falefa at second. I was like, oh, okay. All right, cool. Maybe the vibes are a little bit different today. But then the top of the fourth happens. Another leadoff double.
Of course.
Then they intentionally walk Vladdy. And then Bryce. And then Bryce walks Kirk on a pretty non-competitive at bat.
Can't do that.
Yeah, 4 pretty non-competitive pitches.
Yeah.
There and then he gets Dalton Varsho to strike out. And it's like, okay, all right. Well,
one of the nastiest splitters he's thrown all year too.
Yeah. And it's like, if you can get out of this with like maybe just giving up 1 run, cool. Yeah. Like maybe a sac fly here, and then you and then you and then you get the next out, cool. And then Ernie Clement hits a ball like just a few inches in front of home plate.
I don't think Cal gets it. Foot.
Yeah. Cal gets it, steps on home, throws the first, and they're out of the inning.
Cal almost crawls on his knees to get to that baseball before it rolls backwards foul. I think if I'm remembering correctly, Cal made a very similar play against the Angels earlier this year, where he like ran out to get a ball before it ran foul, and then he stepped on home and threw to first. That one was a little further away from the plate, but this one it was rolling back. It might have been on top of home plate as Cal picked it up, and he smothered it in fair territory. Got a huge double play. And again, getting out of that without giving up the run, it really felt like, okay, now every out you get from Bryce Miller after that, you're really pushing your luck a little bit. And so, it was the third inning script felt like we were going to see the same thing. We didn't. And then we're like, oh no, are we going to see it in the fourth inning script? Yeah. And no. Yeah. Sometimes you just need a bounce to go your way, get a little lucky, and that can turn everything around. And it took a couple innings after you got that good bounce, but that ended up being a huge play in this ball game.
Massive. Now, the Blue Jays wound up taking the lead a couple of innings later. Obviously, in the fifth inning, they tie things up after Brash comes in. Barger on first. He is Bryce's responsibility there. Brash gives up the double to Springer. And then Wu comes in and immediately pipes 96 to Kirk, who doubles.
Yep.
And Kirk winds up scoring, partly because Dom Canzone had a god-awful throw to home.
Also, not the best route in the world on that double. I mean, I'm not saying he should have caught it, but like, I think Robles might have been able to hold him to a single.
Yeah, but
whatever.
Yeah, but Wu wraps up the afternoon. His first appearance since that game in Houston, which feels like 10 years ago at this point.
Recording every day for 4 weeks, so yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
Almost every day.
He winds up going 2 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run, the one that I talked about, no strikeouts, walk, and obviously he might have exploded George Springer's knee.
X-rays came back negative.
Yeah, X-rays did come back negative, but Springer did have to leave the game.
Yeah, right on the kneecap.
Yeah, it looked pretty bad. I mean, it went off of his knee so hard. I'm pretty sure StatCast registered it.
It had an exit velo?
Yeah, it had an exit velo. I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere that it had an exit velo. So, yeah.
It looked like a guy who hadn't pitched in a month.
Yeah. So, the Springer thing, again, X-rays come back negative, but, swelling, all that.
Sure. Bruising, all that, yeah.
If I had to guess, he'll try to get it out, but that's something to absolutely keep an eye on here. I mean, he's been their second best player behind Vladdy in this series, in this postseason, and just this year in general, really. So we'll see if he's in the lineup on Sunday. I would assume yes, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, Wu kind of iffy for his first appearance out of the bullpen, but also it's his first time doing this, and he hasn't pitched in like a month, so.
Atmosphere is incredible. Every pitch matters so much. Like,
yeah.
I was not surprised by anything that happened in Wu's outing. The shaky command, the velo was good, but shaky command control. kind of gritting through a couple of innings, giving you 6 outs. Yeah, that's about what I expected from Bryan Wu.
And then Spire, after throwing, I believe his season high 32 pitches yesterday, he has a clean inning in this one. He winds up getting the win. And then Mooney with a clean inning to lock things up. So yeah, pretty solid day for the pitching staff. Really, all things considered. I mean, after you gave up 21 runs on 29 hits the last 2 games, like, yeah,
you keep the wagon that is the Blue Jays offense, particularly at T-Mobile Park, which is a weird sentence to say, but it's absolutely true. You keep them to 2 runs. I don't care what it looks like. You did a great job. And today was one of those days where it didn't look as good as the final line might indicate, but who cares? You went out there and you did a good enough job. And, you got a little lucky on the Jimenez, double play, and the Cal Raleigh, double play, and Randy, I'm going to say, saves a double, although I think that was more of a routine play. Like, I think a decent left fielder makes, like, Rayleigh's just standing there waiting for that ball to come down, but whatever, he caught it. For Randy, that's a good play, so we'll take it.
I'm calling it a home run robbery, personally.
Even though it absolutely was not.
Good job, Randy. Good job.
Sure. But yeah, you made all the plays you needed to make. Really not that many defensive miscues, except for Canzone's horrible throw. He might have been able to run it in faster and more accurate than he threw it.
Yeah, that was the first time that Kirk has scored from second on a single all season. Yeah.
And a good throw gets him by 20 feet.
Yeah.
And he just threw it, 20 feet up the line. So yeah.
Robles did appear in this game.
He played defense.
Yeah, so I guess he's not hurt enough to not be able to, to not be available.
Neither of those guys are going to give you anything offensively. You just have to assume that for the rest of the postseason. Robles will at least give you better defense and a stronger arm, so he should be playing pretty much every day. I still do think he is he's got like a bruised hip or some kind of thing going on, because it really doesn't make any sense for him to basically sit out the last 2 games. When Canzone is not hitting right now. Almost had one of the funnier home runs in Mariners history.
Yeah.
But, it wasn't meant to be, and then he struck out on the next pitch. So, Robles, if he's healthy, needs to be in there. And honestly, I don't know if Canzone should be on the World Series roster if the Mariners get there, because could he really give you much worse than Luke Raley right now? And at least Raley can run and play some defense and all that. So, but we'll talk about that hopefully next week. Until they get one more win, we're not even going to sniff roster construction or anything like that. But
no.
Yeah, pretty solid night from the defense. Solid night from the pitching, not spectacular. And, it was Gino's night.
Absolutely. So, yeah, the Mariners are 1 win away from the World Series. It's the closest they've ever been. They've gotten to 2 wins in the ALCS a couple of times, but never 3 wins. So this is the first time they've ever gotten to this point. And they'll have 2 shots to make it happen. They'll have 1 clear shot at it on Sunday, where the worst that can happen is that the series winds up getting tied, and then possibly Game 7 on Monday. It's the Mariners, so probably that's what's going to happen.
I don't know if I can do a tie.
I have to go to the stadium for that. I have to be there.
First of all, you don't have to. You're choosing to.
I kind of.
Second of all, I feel like that's
once in a lifetime opportunity.
I feel like that's better.
How?
Because you're at least there. Like, I just have to.
I feel like that's way worse. You can just
then
turn
why
off
are
the
you
TV
going
if you want to.
If it's so bad, why are you going?
Because there's on one hand, this could be the most traumatic sports moment of my life. On the other, it could be the greatest sports moment of my life.
The guy who just compared himself to Brad Pitt.
That's right.
It's just like, oh yeah,
I am Brad Pitt.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. We're clipping that, putting that on Twitter. That's a new meme.
That's gonna be a new shirt. I am Brad Pitt, and it's just gonna be my face.
Possibly coming soon, but maybe not. But anyways, yeah. So I don't know if I can do a Game 7. I don't know if I can handle it. The good news, if you do need a Game 7, and I'm using good news loosely here, is that pretty much everybody but your Game 6 starter should be available. And we don't know who the game 6 starter is going to be. It's probably Logan Gilbert. But everybody should be available for game 7. Miller didn't throw a ton of pitches today. Wu didn't throw a ton of pitches today. Luis Castillo didn't throw a ton of pitches in his start. Obviously, Kirby probably starts game 7 is what we're assuming. Could they technically start Kirby in game 6 and save Logan for game 7? Does he have enough rest?
They could if they wanted to, yeah.
Yeah. But anyways.
Yeah, because they started Tuesday, so that would be normal rest. So we'll talk more about this in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Brad Pitt here, joined as always by, who do you want to be, Colby? Ryan Gosling?
No, I'll try to be more realistic.
Zach Galifianakis?
I don't have the hair. Body-wise, maybe. Hair, not so much. But that would mean I get to star in a movie with Robert Downey Jr. So that's pretty cool.
Solid. It's a solid movie, by the way.
Due Date?
Yeah.
Never seen it.
It was all right.
I mean, yeah, I feel like RDJ in a comedy that's not Doolittle or Sherlock or whatever. Yeah. Probably pretty good. We'll see. Maybe I'm RDJ. That's as ridiculous as you being Brad Pitt. I would say let us know in the comments, but no, I'm not opening up that can of worms.
Yeah, we're not leaving that up to you Neanderthals down below.
No. But, feel free to drag Ty for saying he's like Brad Pitt.
Or agree with me. Because that would be that would be the right choice. The accurate choice.
It just hit me who you look like, but I don't know his name. So I'll have to do some research.
Okay. You do that. You let me know afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the Mariners are 1 win away from the World Series. They got 2 shots to make it happen. It's going to be Trey Savage on the bump again for the Blue Jays, pitching in the biggest game of his life. And I mentioned that because hopefully that's something that he is thinking about a lot before he gets on the bump. And obviously the Mariners handled him fairly well when they saw him. Julio with the big 3-run home run. Got assisted by a couple of calls that went in their favor. But I thought they had a pretty good game plan against Savage. And again, this is a young guy making his second start against the same team and his 4th career start in general. And it's with his team trying to fend off elimination. Obviously it'll be at his home ballpark instead of on the road, but still it's very possible that the moment could get too big for the young guy, and hopefully it does for our sake.
Kind of did in game 2, so
yeah
we'll see. You never know how guys are going to react though. You throw the pitching matchups out the window. The Mariners, we thought, had the pitching advantage over the last 2 games, and they lost both of them. And then tonight, we thought the Blue Jays had the pitching advantage, and they lost this one. So, doesn't really matter. We'll see what Savage you get. By the way, you're Brendan Hunt.
Brendan Hunt. All right, yes. I'm going to look this up.
Very famous role, Ty, that we have already addressed in the history of the show.
Oh, yeah, okay. I'll be Coach Beard.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
One, right?
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Solid.
Yeah.
Anyways, you never know how the young guys are going to respond. I mean, Logan Gilbert looked terrible in his first start, and he is not the young gun of Trey Savage, although sadly, almost as much playoff experience as Trey Savage. I think pretty much identical playoff experience. We'll see how that looks, how that works. We'll see if there's any more changes to the lineup. Something we haven't talked about yet is the new look lineup. kind of tough to say it worked because Gino drove in 5 of the 6 runs.
By the way, I'm on a generational run of getting proven wrong on Twitter because when I saw the lineup, I quote tweeted it and I said Randy and Gino hitting back to back, and I made like a grimace face, like the grimace emoji. And those guys, led to the biggest moment of the entire night.
But yeah, I think Leo Rivas probably going to stick at second base. He made a nice defensive play. He actually took some good at bats. He always seems to see like 7-8 pitches per at bat as well. And obviously he's a defensive upgrade. And again, you don't really need Dom Canzone in the lineup, so you're okay DHing Polo and having Rivas in there. So I imagine we'll continue to see that. Randy getting dropped to 5th, did it really help? No, I mean, Randy got on base a couple times, but it's how he's gotten on base pretty much the entire playoff run, hit by pitches or walks. Still made an impact, stole a base, obviously scored a run. So, I don't know if Randy is close or if he's just getting lucky. It's kind of hard to tell because he's taking a lot of walks. He's working counts and all that. But he also doesn't really ever seem that close to getting a hit. So, we'll see if they can. I imagine they'll run back with the same lineup. Julio does not like hitting leadoff. He did not have a particularly great game today. But again, as Dan Wilson said,
0 for 4 with a strikeout.
Yeah. As Dan Wilson said, it's that time of year where you got to ask guys to do some uncomfortable things. Julio, again, is not comfortable hitting leadoff. He's been vocal about it, which is funny because he's put up great numbers as a leadoff hitter, but he has been very vocal about not liking hitting leadoff, particularly at home. But I think you just got to do what you got to do. And maybe you even flip Gino and Randy, as I think Ty may have just died. Maybe you even flip those two guys around. But it'll be interesting to see. They shook it up a little bit tonight. Again, did it work? I mean, not really. They scored more runs in the last 2 games, but also the guys who hit the home runs tonight scored all the runs they were hitting in their normal spots. So hard to say, but I imagine they'll run it back. Leo Rivas has given this team something clearly. He draws walks. He's pesky. He sees a lot of pitches, and he plays pretty good defense at second base. So I can't imagine they're benching him anytime soon. So I'm guessing we see the same lineup. I'm guessing Logan Gilbert will be the Game 6 starter. And everybody should be available out of the bullpen. Munoz just got 2 days off, and now he pitched tonight, threw 12 pitches. Bizzardo didn't pitch tonight, so he's going to get 2 days off. Spire is going to get a much-needed day off, although my hunch is they would like to stay away from him, but you got to do what you got to do, So we'll see. Hopefully Logan, this would be a great time for Logan to give you Detroit Logan, not Toronto Logan, but we know how tough of a matchup this is for Gilbert in particular. So you'll take what you can get, and all hands on deck, and everybody but Gilbert should probably be available for a Game 7, which hopefully the Mariners do not need, because I'm not kidding when I say I don't know if I can do it. So
it's at the very least, it's going to be a little bit of a longer turnaround than last Friday to Sunday, but I'm talking about literal hours here, like just a handful of hours. But still, you're going to get a full 48-hour period between the end of this game and the start of Game 6.
Yeah.
So everyone should be in a pretty good spot. Everyone should be available, I would think, unless they're dealing with something that we don't know about. So I think you're in a pretty good spot, and I'm just curious to see how the Blue Jays are going to handle this game, and what kind of leash does Savage have specifically. Because this is the first time he's faced a team for a second time. So what is that going to look like? And especially it seemed like they had pretty good feel for him the first time around. So if they jump on him again, and by all accounts, it seems like the Mariners very much like hitting in Rogers Center more than they do at T-Mobile Park right now. So
kind of the opposite for the Blue Jays.
Yeah. Both of these teams kind of seem like they like getting better at the other team's ballpark, but yeah, I mean, that's obviously going to be very interesting. And, could we see them use Shane Bieber in game 6, after you savage, and go with Scherzer in game 7, or use Scherzer in game 6 after you savage. I would think that we'll see Chris Bassett at some point in game 6 for sure.
Yeah, if they need it. I mean, for all we know, Savage goes 6 scoreless or something crazy like that. But game 7 again. I think pretty much everybody for both teams is going to be available, with the exception of whoever starts game 6. So for the Jays, that'll be Savage. For the Mariners, again, we are assuming that it's Logan Gilbert.
Yeah,
I don't think that's been officially announced yet.
Yeah, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Tidy Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Tidy Gonzalez, and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. You can also find us on Instagram at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.